Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. We're going to deconstruct one of the most chaotic real-life moving crises you will literally ever hear about. We've got it all: a sudden eviction, a hostile ex, a packed multi-generational household, and yeah, a highly aggressive dog, all crashing down at the exact same time. It is the literal definition of a perfect storm. But more importantly, we're going to break down the exact step-by-step framework used to survive the chaos and take back control. So picture this. You wake up just 2 days before your lease ends. You look around, and your roommates, Cam and Alicia, they've vanished. Zero notice. Turns out they bolted to a completely different city, leaving you and your one remaining roommate stuck with a massive $2,350 rent bill, a bill you absolutely cannot afford. Well, this is exactly the nightmare our subject, Dakota, woke up to. And just when you think it can't get worse, your landlord drops a bomb. Preferred Property Management sends an email essentially saying, "Get out right now, or we're taking you to the Residential Tenancy Dispute Resolution Service to legally throw you out." Because the roommates fled and the lease wasn't renewed properly, the clock is suddenly ticking. It is a high-stakes race to figure out a survival strategy before the locks get changed.
Which brings us to part 1, surviving the lease dispute.
Look, when you have absolutely no money to move today, panic is not an option. You have to strategize. The timeline here is brutal. Roommates bail on May 30th. The lease technically dies on May 31st. By June 1st, boom, eviction threat. Dakota's immediate goal here is simply survival. He needs to push that timeline back to June 30th just to buy enough breathing room to pack up and find a new place. So watch this immediate pivot in strategy. At first, Dakota naturally tried pleading. He asked the property manager to extend a discounted rent of $1,600. But the manager shot that down instantly and doubled down on the eviction threat. So Dakota had to switch gears immediately. He drafted an urgent response, completely dropping the plea for a discount. Instead, he offered to pay the prorated amount of the full $2,350 just to stay until June 30th. By offering cold hard cash and a firm, non-negotiable move-out date, he aimed to stop that instant legal lockout right in its tracks. Now, to actually pull a move like that off, you've really got to know your numbers. Dakota sat down and mapped out his finances, combining his provincial disability support with his window cleaning income. And he realized something crucial. His actual, fixed monthly debts were incredibly low. I mean, with his mom and ex-roommate helping out, his phone bill was only $40 out of pocket. Add in a small $37 tech loan, and that's kind of it. That super low overhead became his secret weapon, giving him the ability to quickly stockpile cash for the massive move ahead. All right, let's move on to part 2. The multi-generational move. Because Dakota isn't just escaping a lease dispute, he's landing in a wildly complex household. He's moving in with his girlfriend, Jess. But it's not just the two of them. He's walking into a fully furnished house with basically zero room for his stuff. Plus, there's a huge transit challenge since neither of them drives. They are totally reliant on buses and ride shares. Add in 2 high-energy kids, 5-year-old Alexis and 7-year-old Olivia, 3 dogs, and Jess's grandma, who actually owns the home. Dakota is stepping right into her established territory. To solve this instant space crisis, you really have to get creative. You have to separate your absolute essentials from the clutter, all while deeply respecting the homeowner's space. So Dakota's plan? Send his bulky, sensitive electronics to a friend's downtown apartment for safekeeping. For the rest of his everyday boxes, he prepares what we'll call the grandma pitch. He respectfully asks to just use a corner of her garage for temporary storage while he slowly and carefully integrates his things into the house. And his mindset here is absolutely spot on. He literally says, "I want to make sure I'm a relief to your grandma, not an extra burden." That right there is the winning strategy. Dakota isn't just asking for favors, he's offering pure utility. He takes over the heavy grocery lifting, the yard work, the trash duties. By doing all the heavy lifting, literally, he earns his place in her home. He proves that his being there actually makes the household run smoother, flipping her hesitation into a very confident yes. Let's transition to part 3, managing the hostile ex. As if the housing logistics weren't stressful enough, you have this massive external pressure. Jess's hostile ex, Tyler, is constantly sending provocative, mean text messages, always digging for info about Dakota. To protect their peace of mind, they deploy something called the gray rock method. It's exactly what it sounds like. You deal with a hostile person by acting as completely unresponsive and uninteresting as a gray rock. By keeping all texts strictly to logistics, like picking up the kids, and totally ignoring any emotional bait, Jess effectively starves Tyler's drama of the fuel it needs to keep burning.
Taking that a step further, they established what they call the weekend window. See, Tyler only has the kids on the weekends, so Jess just mutes his text notifications completely from Monday through Friday. She only checks his messages on Friday afternoon and Sunday afternoon for the actual handoffs. This boundary is a total game changer. It allows Dakota and Jess to reclaim their weeknights and fiercely protect their time together without those sudden anxiety-inducing texts blowing up their phones out of nowhere.
But what about the kids in all this? You can't ask a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old to keep secrets. That just stresses them out and makes the ex way more suspicious. Instead, they use the boring strategy. They let the kids share honestly, but they actively coach them to focus on the most mundane, uninteresting details imaginable. Stuff like, we watched cartoons, we ate tacos. It's honestly brilliant. By making Dakota's presence seem totally unremarkable to the kids, it completely strips the situation of any provocative value for the ex. Moving on to part 4, high-stakes dog safety. This is, without a doubt, the most physically dangerous element of the whole move. The household has 3 dogs, none of them like Dakota, and they definitely do not operate as a unified pack. It's almost like a prison with 2 completely distinct security zones. Upstairs, you've got 2 dogs we'll call the scared barkers. Their aggression is totally driven by fear. But downstairs is the wild card. This is a dog that's actively aggressive and will actually attack the other 2. Dakota has to carefully navigate both of these zones every single day without triggering a disaster. For those scared barkers upstairs, Dakota basically has to become a ghost who drops cheese. He uses an ignore and reward method. You turn your body sideways, you absolutely do not make eye contact, you toss high-value treats like cheese or hot dogs behind the dogs, and then you just walk away. It's a fantastic way to build positive associations without putting any social pressure on a fearful animal. Downstairs, though? Totally different story. The downstairs dog is managed solely by the grandma and has an incredibly short fuse. So Dakota's role down there isn't to be some magical dog whisperer. His job is strictly perimeter security. He maintains what they call airlock security. That means double, even triple checking every single gate and door to guarantee that dog cannot escape and redirect its aggression onto the other dogs or, God forbid, the kids. To really set himself up for success before moving day even arrives, Dakota uses a scent strategy. He sleeps in some plain t-shirts, gets them nice and sweaty, and has Jess place those unwashed shirts right in the dogs' beds. Dogs experience the entire world through their noses, right? This brilliantly establishes his scent as part of the normal, safe environment of their home before he even carries his first box through the front door. And finally, part 5, taking control of chaos. So how on earth do you take all these chaotic, moving parts, the eviction threats, the ex, the complex family dynamics, the aggressive dogs, and actually execute this move? You build a rock-solid timeline. By breaking this massive crisis down into a 4-week plan, that overwhelming panic suddenly turns into a totally manageable checklist. Week 1 is securing grandma's buy-in. Week 2 is the scent drop for the dogs and figuring out storage. Week 3 is establishing those text muting boundaries with the ex. And week 4 is packing that essential first night box. Here's the big takeaway from all of this. Surviving a crisis like this, it's not about getting lucky. Whether you're dealing with a toxic ex, a sudden eviction notice taped to your front door, or just a really complicated family situation, having a deliberate, step-by-step framework is your ultimate superpower. You deconstruct the chaos, you establish incredibly firm boundaries, and then you simply execute the plan. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. The next time life hands you a perfect storm, are you going to panic? Or are you going to build a framework and take back control? Think about it and start mapping out your own crisis to control strategy today. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. I really hope you can use some of these tools in your own life.